Okay, Torah Tuesday. We are in our final chapters of Numbers. Let's get stuck into it. This is chapter 35. We have here the explanation of the cities that should be given to the Levites. Now remember, the Levites, they don't receive any land, any tribal land as their inheritance. And so the question is, where will they live? Remember we're talking about 23,000 men according to Numbers 26. So where are we going to put all of those men and all of their families? Here God tells Moses that there should be 48 cities that are designated for the Levites. And they should get an allotment of pasture land as well. Now, of those 48 cities, 6 of them should become cities of refuge. What's a city of refuge? The chapter goes on to explain. When somebody has accidentally killed someone, they can flee to one of these cities of refuge to find refuge from the avenger. Now, this isn't meant to be confused with the Avengers. It's not like a bunch of superheroes are coming to seek justice. No, the Avenger is someone, probably a family member of the person who has died, who will come after the accused person and take a life for a life. So that person can run away from the Avenger to a city of refuge in order that they might be able to stand trial before they are killed by the Avenger. Now, that all sounds really crazy to us, but remember that this is an ancient form of justice. This is a judicial system. And while it might sound very simple, it is a form of justice. Now, there's a lot explained in this chapter. You can imagine that innocent parties as well as guilty parties would flee to these cities. Of course they would. But these people, they still have to stand trial. And at the trial, there needed to be witnesses. And there couldn't just be one witness, there had to be at least 2 witnesses. And if there were not 2 witnesses, then a guilty verdict could not be made. So what this is all saying is that there are standards here. It's not the death penalty for an accusation of murder without evidence, which, if we're honest, is sometimes how it plays out these days. What we needed here is substantial evidence. Now, a lot of time in this chapter is spent explaining the difference between murder and manslaughter, as we call it, intentional murder and accidental manslaughter. If someone is found to be innocent of murder, but guilty of manslaughter, or if there is not enough evidence to charge them as guilty of murder, they are meant to stay in this city of refuge for years, it might seem, until the death of the high priest. And when the death of the high priest occurred, they were free to go. Now, this indicates that the death of the high priest is acting as a kind of substitution for the guilty party. Now, you might remember that in Hebrews, there's a strong connection made between Jesus and the high priest, because Jesus is the ultimate high priest who gives his own lifeblood to atone for the sin of the people. It's a really cool connection. And then we come to chapter 36, the final chapter of Numbers, and we are recalling some minor cast members from back in chapter 27. Remember Zelophehad's daughters? These girls, there were 5 sisters, they came to Moses and they pointed out that they would be excluded from inheriting the land because they had no brothers. Now Moses took that objection to God, and God pointed out that these women were right and they should be able to inherit land. And so Moses says that women can inherit land if they have no brothers. But now they come back to Moses and they've found another loophole, or they've thought about another loophole. If they inherit land as women, but then they marry someone who comes from a different tribe, then their tribal land will become a part of their husband's tribal land, and their tribe will be missing out. Do you see the issue there? So again, Moses goes to God, and God gives Moses the verdict. Any woman who inherits land, remember, this isn't going to be a very common occurrence. This is only going to happen on very limited cases. But any woman who inherits land, that woman must marry someone from within her own tribe. Now, before you all bark up and say, "Oh my goodness, that's so unfair," remember that we're talking about somewhere between 20,000 and 40,000 men who belong to each tribe. So there are plenty of fish in the sea. It's not like they're having to marry their brother or something like that. Now, this all seems like a strange way for the book to end, for the story of Numbers to come to a conclusion with this kind of caveat. But this story gets at some of the themes that have been set up for us, that the next books, well, actually the next, Deuteronomy is the next book, and then Joshua actually after that. The people are entering into the land. It's going to happen. It's imminent. We've been given laws about how it should look when they do enter in the land. But at the same time, Moses, who has been their leader and who in this very story is playing such a crucial role, he isn't going to be there when they enter the land. We've been told that many times. And so the book ends in suspense. Moses is dying and they are entering into the land. How are they going to do it without him? You'll have to tune in for the next book to find out. Now, let's just finish by looking at some of the overall themes in Numbers. Spending some time connecting Numbers and the big themes there to the New Testament. In the New Testament, the big themes of Numbers that are drawn out, there are 3 of them. The first one is, we should be warned by Israel's disobedience. We should look to Israel in the wilderness as cautionary tales about how we can fall into sin on our way to the future home, to our future home. So that's the first one. The second thing that the New Testament does with Numbers is it shows us that Christ is an even better Moses. And he's an even better high priest, as we have already seen today. And then the third one is that the journey of Israel to the promised land shows us what a journey home looks like. This is a journey that we as Christians will make toward the new kingdom, the new Jerusalem, the holy mountain of Zion, the place where we will spend eternity. And this is a theme that's gotten at in a famous hymn called "Guide Me, O Thou Great Jehovah." So let's make this song, and we're going to read through the lyrics of it now, let's make this song our prayer to finish this book of Numbers. Let's read it together. Guide me, O thou great Jehovah, pilgrim through this barren land. I am weak, but thou art mighty. Hold me with thy powerful hand. Bread of heaven, feed me now and evermore. Bread of heaven, feed me now and evermore. Open now the crystal fountain, whence the healing waters flow. Let the fire and cloudy pillar lead me all my journey through. Strong deliverer, be thou still my strength and shield. Strong deliverer, be thou still my strength and shield. When I tread the verge of Jordan, bid my anxious fears subside. Death of death and hell's destruction, land me safe on Canaan's side. Songs of praises I will ever give to thee. Songs of praises I will ever give to thee. Land me safe on Canaan's side. Bid my anxious fears, land me safe on Canaan's side. Bid my anxious fears goodbye. Amen.